Bombers.
Well, Comish, welcome to Big Blue recap. We are feeling a little blue, although I can't say that this is a surprise. The team has not been able to put back-to-back victories all year, so why did we think that it would even be a possibility this week?
Not only that, they've been outscored in the first half. Get this, 316 to 141. So it's no surprise they were down 25-0 before we could even.
Okay, I said, I do believe, and you'd have to go back to the archives for this, but I did say I believe that the Bombers should be safe and keep Buck out of play for the remainder of the year. There was no real need for him to come in, considering the chances of making the playoffs were pretty much almost nil anyway. But it just brings up another point. This is not trying to rain on Buck. I think the guy's got a heart. I have respect for him. The guy is injury prone. All right. And it's not like you can say, well, the next time he goes out there, he won't get injured. Every time he hits the field, he's injured. Okay.
that was such a hellacious hit. He just takes the most.
I agree. He takes the hits. The problem is he's not able to get up from them. And I'm not, as I said, I'm not trying to knock him at all. I'm just saying you cannot run a team. You cannot run a team like that.
Well, here's the thing that I see, and I agree with you. It's without a doubt he's injury prone. He's also a winner. I think he's something like 12-1 when he actually finishes a game. But he finishes a game, 40% or 30% of the time, so that's not very good. But the fact is they don't have, if you're going to go with Buck Pierce, you got to go with a veteran backup at quarterback. And Joey Elliott and Alex Brink aren't those guys at this point.
Okay, so here's the disconnect that I have, and it's going to hit a topic that you probably will see coming. It's talking about the GM. All right? And once again, for those people that are new, I do not mention the GM by name anymore. I haven't done it for a few weeks. It's just, I will not mention him by name, but I do think he should
Joe Mack.
You can mention him. I will not. I refuse to. But he should be fired. But here's the thing. He goes for a youth movement, right?
Without telling us.
Right, but he goes for a youth movement, and Joey Elliott's part of the youth movement. So be honest and say we're rebuilding. It'll take 5 years before we're a playoff team. All right? And I could live with that. Well, not really, but I would have to live with that. Joey Elliott would then be part of that rebuilding phase, and you need to give the kid a chance then to see what he's got through a whole season, him being star.
But 1 second, so let me stop you for a second. It was more of a youth movement on defense. That's where they lost Brown to retirement.
Right now, they just seem to be their quarterback situation is.
But they re-signed Bucks. He said he went out, re-signed Buck, gave him his contract, and was confident that they had, despite the backups were virtual rookies, he was confident they had the right mix there. That's proven to be fatal this year. So has the youth movement, as I'll call it, on defense. There's no leadership on that group. And then special teams has also been a disaster. We thought we had a good return man in Washington, but he has fumbleitis. I don't know. All three phases of the game, I won't say absolute disaster, but when you're 5-12,
they're disaster.
Pretty much is. That's the only word.
I've been on the GM needs to be fired. I'm gonna stick with that. Last week you were like, well, he's gonna eye for talent. Look if they find a way to make the playoffs, maybe you give the guy a shot. And I was against that. But now we know that they're eliminated from playoffs. We know that the best that they can be this year is 6-12, but most likely going to be a 5-13 team. All right. Here's a guy that has an eye for talent. Here's a guy that makes the decisions. He re-signs Buck. Not that it was a bad decision, but what we have with this team is you have a guy go out, gets concussed. You still talk because you're so desperate of bringing him back, even though the guy's brain is mush. All right. And you keep this in, week out, the secret of who's going to start when an honorable team would just say the guy's out for 5 weeks and let's see what the starter does, knowing that he's getting the reps as a starter. This is no knock on Elliott because I don't think we know what we have with him because it's been so inconsistent what we've had at quarterback. Who's in, who's out, who's in, who's out throughout the week. They played these games and a GM needs to step in and say, hold it a minute. All right. And he is not a good GM. I don't think he has a clue. I don't think he has a plan. And I think he needs to be out of here. And I think what he needs to do, take the offensive coordinator with him. And I've been on that kick too.
Well, you know what? The offense showed some promise until yesterday when I just don't know what they were thinking or what they were doing.
They had a chance potentially of making a comeback. There was enough time in the fourth quarter. And there's one key drive at work. It was a first down. It was a 3rd and 1 or something, or 3rd and inches, and it was a running play. A guy about 2 yards behind the quarterback. The announcer saying, "What the heck are they doing?" It works. Now you're on the other end. You're at the fourth quarter. You're trying to make a comeback. You need 2 touchdowns with a 2-point converted touchdown, and you're in a situation of 3rd and 1.5. And you do the same play where you hand a ball 2 yards behind the quarterback. Now the guy needs 3.5 yards, and the defense is looking for that running play.
That's not smart.
Okay, this is the offensive coordinator. They fooled him once. They're not going to fool him twice. All right? This is the dumbest play. It's a game. That was the game. I'm saying, sorry, the guy's made too many of those dumb calls.
Yeah, but now you've invested a whole year in him. You're gonna get rid of him? I don't know.
This is what I say, and you have to look at the big picture. You've invested a year, and there's some clowns on that team that you've invested on, and you have to make a decision. I've invested a year in Bozo the clown, and Krusty the clown, okay, and I'm either going to continue to invest in those two people, all right, and have the circus in town in Winnipeg, or I'm going to say, you know what? I'm a smart person. I look at the future. Yes, by making these moves, we're probably a year or two out where we could really have a potential to make the playoffs and be a winning team. I take the chance and I say, look, the future is brighter without Krusty and Bozo. All right? And I'm sorry, I have to call it how I feel it is. And I might be wrong and people might disagree with me. This is an experiment that's failed. The only guy on the coaching staff that I believe really deserves a shot at starting next year and seeing what he can do with it being his team is Burke. All right? Too much inconsistency with him coming in. There was a lot in the air. I want to see what he has starting the season with his team. It being his team. All right? But I want those other 2 guys out.
Hey, kids!
That's Krusty the Clown. He just called. He said he's a little insulted you compared Joe Mack to him.
Well, if the shoe fits, right? Are we alive there?
Lost, you parasite!
That was his answer. Well, here's the thing. They're going to have to look at Joe Mack's reign at the end of the year over the 3 years, what he's done, where this team's headed. They've showed some flashes of competitiveness, but when you can't win back-to-back games all year, and they haven't won one since August, it's not as much Joe Mack, it's also preparation. What are the coaches doing? Does Tim Burke get a shot? I would say this team's in disarray, but the good thing about the CFL, you could turn things around in a year.
You can.
And Paul LaPolice, his first year, had a 4-14 record, or it was dismal, but they were close in so many games that I had faith, or I kept thinking, there's a good chance they'll turn it around next year. This year's team is so inconsistent. I have no idea what next year holds. I just know what I saw yesterday. And what I saw yesterday was a team ill-prepared for the fact that they have an injury-prone quarterback. But it's a team that's still, the party line is Bucks our man, Bucks our man. Well, that's all great, but you know what? Joey Elliott and Alex Brink are then thrown into the fire. I was listening to the post-game show, and this confirms it, which was my thought anyway. They barely get any reps with the first team, so
That's my
Naturally,
point.
going to look out of sync for the first 2 quarters, right?
That's my point that I made at the beginning.
No, I know.
The starting quarterback gets the reps, so they should have given it to Joey Elliott in the last, at least 3 games.
Yeah, no, you're right. Well, yes, listen, they are playing for their jobs.
But how can you play?
They were coaching and managing for their jobs.
But how how can you play for your job when you're ill prepared? All right, and why do you take the risk of getting Buck Pierce even more injured unless your thought process is he's damaged goods and we're going to get rid of him anyway and he's going to be somebody else's problem. But if that's your thinking, you're a heartless human being. Okay, there's no way. Even he's going to want to play. He's a competitor. He's a tough guy, and I respect him for that. It's up to the people who have the ability to say no, and the team as a whole looks at that and doesn't know what is up or down. And I'll tell you this, I believe if La Police was still there, they would have made the playoffs. Does that mean they should have kept them beyond this year? I don't know. But I do think that if you looked how they played in that BC game, and I've mentioned it podcast after podcast, I would say that they would have won more games and probably made the playoffs. All right? That's not Burke's fault. Burke is thrown into another inconsistent situation. It's like trying to douse a fire in an emergency. And that is why, but that's why I think why I said his name. Oh boy. An epiphany. But that's why he should be fired. Because this is his mess. He's the leader of the team, and he created this mess.
Well, I'm leaning towards that too, but I just think where are they? Where is this team going to end up if they do that? What does that say for next year? Are we giving up on next year too, or could this team turn it around? Have they shown enough? Have they gotten out the kinks, of being rookies? Well, the key thing, I guess, will be quarterback. What are they going to do? That's the huge question. They can say Buck's their man all they want, but without dealing with that quarterback issue, this team's going nowhere fast. I think the defense will improve. I'm not sure that we'll have like Jonathan Hefty back or maybe even Javon Johnson. Maybe those guys have to go too if you're doing a house cleaning.
No, I'm not necessarily saying a house cleaning. I'm saying a new leader. I need a leadership.
No, but you're gonna look. These are Joe Mack guys. They're gonna have a new guy in.
Right, and if they have...
Well, you're starting from scratch. So you keep Joe Mack for another year. I mean, I guess he's a lame duck GM at that point.
No, you don't keep him another year.
Maybe you do.
You're another year behind. I say that you don't.
They're another year behind. No, you're right. They're another year behind no matter what you do, because you keep them.
Maybe not. As you say, teams rebound pretty quickly. Who knows if it's a different team next year, it's a different feel. So a new GM comes in and people feel confident in the system, and that goes from the top down, because that GM leads then down to the head coach and the coaching staff, then down to the players. So I say you make a change, and you make it now. And the reason you make it now is because you have the whole off season to see what you got and to see what the new GM's got. I do not trust this GM. I'll be honest. This is why I don't trust him. All right? Let's say that they keep the GM. And let's say the GM decides to give Burke a shot, right? But let's say the next 5 games into the season, of next year, the first 5 games, is one of inconsistency. Let's say they go 2-3. Let's say they go 1-4. All right? Now the GM is trying to save his hide again and fires the coach 5 games into the season, right? Because he's also looking at the record at the end of this year, which isn't too good. Now we got a new head coach, right? So this is why I don't trust him. This is why I think he needs to go.
All right, your time's up. Here's where you made the point. Joe Mack has to go, in your opinion. I'm gonna leave it to the Garth Butchko and those guys to decide. I just want to kind of go back to yesterday afternoon, and say that this team also, forget about Joe Mack for a second. The players have to have some accountability. The coaches have to have some accountability. With a new GM, I guess that's the only way that these players and coaches will have accountability, because it sounds to me like Joe Mack's happy with what he has. He thought this was a playoff team. So, okay, so you fire Joe Mack. It's going to be another losing season next year no matter what. But maybe if you don't, as long as he fixes the quarterback situation, maybe there is a chance.
It's not necessarily a losing season. How many teams in the CFL out of the 8 make the playoffs?
6 out of the 8, but
right.
Look at the 6 that make the playoffs and tell me, you think they'll probably have the same quarterback? We don't know who's our quarterback going to be. I don't know. I guess
the bottom tier is the bottom tier. They need to move up a couple spots, and I don't think there's a lot of problem there. I think they might make. What I don't think they'll do is, if there's inconsistency from the top, and what would kill this team, and then we're really a year behind again. As I said, if it's a situation where he feels he needs to get rid of the coach because he doesn't think the coach is the right guy, and so he throws somebody else under the bus next year. All right.
Well, it could be. I don't know. I guess.
Then we have another situation. That's another year. Then we have to think of a new GM again, and because at that point they're not going to give him another chance and another head coach. And oh boy, that's another year. And I just say let's cut our losses and let's move forward, because this is a losing proposition in my mind.
Well, it's definitely been a losing season, and next week they play Montreal to wind up the season. It's Milt Stegall Day, or where he gets inducted into the Canadian Hall of Fame that day, Football Hall of Fame. So does Tyrone Jones. I hope those guys go out and win a game in memory of old TJ and for all the years of service that Milt has given to the team. But the way things are looking, they should win next week.
Well, the way the last 4 games, win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1. And let's be honest, they've lost the games they've lost, they've been blown out. So they're due for a close victory here, at home. Let's hope they do that. It'd be nice to end the season with a win. It would be great. And the chances are, let's go into our predictions, and I'm going to start it off. I have no idea what the score is. I'm going to say a score. I'm going to say 30 to 23 Bombers. Bombers will win next week. Nothing to lose. Go off on a winning note.
I agree. I can't see Anthony Cavill playing that long. I think the Bombers will come back. Although they might not have a running back, so it'll be Air Croton or Air Croton, yeah. And I guess the question is, who plays quarterback? Maybe they have to give Justin Goltz a shot. It's you know what? Let's give it to the Bombers. They're going to do it for Milt and Tyrone, and it'll be 28-14 Bombers.
All right, I just want to say 28-14. I got 30-23. I just want to say next week's show, although it'll be after the fact, is going to be dedicated to the memory of one of the greatest Blue Bombers in our history, and that's Tyrone Jones. And I think it's fitting that Mr. Jones gets that accolade and gets that respect leading into our show. So, Mr. Tech Guy, with that in note, keep that in mind, all right? This next week's show is in memory of the great Tyrone Jones.
All right.
On that note, we're going to sign off, and we'll see you next week for another Big Blue recap, and hopefully it's better news, guys. See ya, Commander.